HSP that I had at the time, they weren't able to diagnose it. They thought that it was maybe bed bugs because I was having these blisters all over my feet, over my legs, and it was becoming difficult to walk. My friends are learning and I'm here. I don't know like what else to do except play piano. Just sitting there in the silence and thought, okay, well, I want to hear something. I want to feel the music. And I had this diary entry that I discovered. I probably wrote it when I was like 14 and I was watching Miss World back then, and I wrote something along the lines of, I wish that could be me one day. When I go on stage and I'm in a gown and I feel very feminine and confident in a different way. I'm Alexa Marie Grant, Miss World Canada.
They said it could never be done. They said, you're too late. They said, it can never happen. This is some of the words almost all leaders have heard more than once in their life. And they have never shied away from rewriting their script. Hi, I am Sue, and I have built a corporate career working across leaders, founders, and change makers. And this is one thing I have learned from them, which no business school can ever teach you. And that is, real change doesn't happen inside boardrooms. They happen when you are ready to rewrite your story. Welcome to the Rewrite Club. And we are just getting the conversation started. So welcome, Alexa. First of all, many congratulations on your win for Miss World Canada. How are you feeling now?
I'm feeling good. It's been a few months since the win, and I've just been settling into things, settling back into work and trying to figure out how to go forward from this to grow everything.
How does it feel? Like, do you feel already on top of the world? Or are you still sinking in that feeling yet? Is it taking time to sink in?
I guess I've never really felt on top of the world, more like happy to be a part of it. I think right now it is still in a place of sinking in because it takes time to build everything up, and I'm going to be competing in 2027, a long time from now. So knowing that I have these many months to prepare, I'm just enjoying every month as it comes.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, and how did you really feel? Like, was that something you were already expecting that, oh yes, I'm going to be the winner? You went in with that thought process, or were you something like more of, okay, let's see, whatever happens, we'll go with the flow?
I would say somewhere in between, because I have gone into pageants thinking either way. And being in that middle portion where you know it's a possibility, you're there not just for the fun, but also because there is a goal of winning and having the platform and all the opportunities that come with it. I did consider, there's a possibility I might not win, but regardless, like what I've built with my Beauty with a Purpose project and everything with the prep going into it would benefit me regardless. So I was happy, and I think that's also what came across on stage, knowing that, of course, I do have the goal and the potential to win the crown, but that's not the only reason I'm there.
And do you think your life would have been something different than what it's now if you would not have won it? Or how would you have taken that?
I don't think my life per se as a whole would have been very different. I think I would have missed out on a really great opportunity to go to Miss World, which will be in 2027. But I still would have my Beauty with a Purpose project regardless, because that was something that was always close to my heart and something I started not just because of the pageant. But yeah, I would have missed a really great opportunity. That's what would have been different.
Yeah. So it's not, you wouldn't say that you would have missed out something, but this is a very great platform for you, especially for your Beauty with a Purpose project, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Because going into Miss World, I think that's the key thing there is you're not just there because it's a competition, you're representing your country, but you're representing also yourself and what you're passionate about, what you do outside of being on stage.
And it's a very great opportunity because not many people get to live those lives and do those work which they're really passionate about, right? Like I will still say, like in the current economy, people are still working because they have to work, they have to pay their bills. But getting this opportunity, I think it's golden one for you. So many congratulations on that. I'll come to your Beauty with a Purpose project a bit later. But before that, we want to really know who is the real person behind the crown. Who, if you were to define Alexa, who would she be?
Okay, I would say I'm someone who's very whimsical. I do love to dream. I'm a dreamer. I am a musician. I play many instruments, and that's to the core of who I am and what makes me happy as well. What I like to share with everyone is music, playing instruments, singing, all of it. I'm a fan of musical theater, Star Wars. I'm living in pop culture. I love it. And yeah, just experiencing the world 1 month at a time.
Okay. And do you think people really perceive you the same way? Because when I first met you personally, I thought, honestly, you came off as a very, very serious person, somebody who's totally into books and those sort of things. Like, I would never have imagined you going for the Miss World or even going to the beauty pageant. You just seemed, you gave me a scientist vibe in the first meeting. So what do you think people perceive about you usually?
I would agree with you. I think people do perceive me as being very serious. And I think that does come from the competition side of pageantry. It's you go in, you're locked into your goal and you want to appear your best all the time. And that is what comes across on social media, I think. And that's something that I'm hoping to grow out of and show that I'm more than just, you know, what you perceive on stage or going to these events and wearing a sash and crown, but all of my interests and my passions and things I do outside of it, that's really key. So that's, one thing, I guess people don't realize how bubbly I am as well. A lot of pictures online, so it's a very, stagnant image where I'm always smiling. So you see that, but then you don't hear the laughter that comes with it. I do think I laugh a lot. And it's funny that you mentioned scientists. Because I'm actually really bad at science. I do like books though. But when I was younger, I think science seemed like the pathway for me. So that's funny.
Interesting.
Yeah, because my mom, she took chemistry, and when I was in elementary, that was one thing that she tried to drill into me. So we focused a lot on like the science fair. I ended up winning gold at Toronto City Science Fair for a project on water filtration. But as I went into high school, I realized business was my passion. So something different. Yeah.
Well, that's like worlds apart. Like, how did you end up with having a liking towards business instead of science, where you really started off with?
I think business felt more open because of the different opportunities you could go into. You could go into more entrepreneurial, or you could have marketing, something more into numbers like finance and accounting. So I like that mix of going into something at first generic like business and then narrowing down to find what really suited me. And with business, I had a really great business teacher in high school. So he was very encouraging, and he also showed me the different pathways. He encouraged me to go to different schools that I might like. And having a support system like that, having a teacher in your corner is really important to be able to push you, especially like being in that critical time of high school, trying to figure out what university to go to or college. That's where you really need that direction and guidance.
Absolutely. And do you think after winning the crown, people started perceiving you a bit different, or you would say no, it was still the same, people still call you a scientist?
I think after winning the Miss World crown, so it's been different, I think, throughout my pageant journey. With Miss World, I think people already started seeing a different side of me as I came up into the national competition, because I was showing more of my music passion and my project, what I was doing outside of it. But then beforehand, I think I still held on to that persona with the idea that in order to go far in pageantry and win a crown, you needed to be serious and locked in. But that totally shifted with my mindset and my switch to being who I am now and going after Miss World Canada.
So more or less showcasing your creative side more,
Yeah.
your fun side as well, along with balancing how the seriousness of the competition, of course, is.
Of course, and that's why I think like the titles feel different. Like when I look back on how I held each crown versus how I'm holding this one now.
Alexa, many times you've talked a lot about self-confidence in your journey, right? How do you think your perception about self-confidence was when before winning the pageant and after winning the pageant? Did something change there?
I think going into Miss World Canada itself, I found my path, my direction with what I wanted to do with my project and who I wanted to showcase on stage, not just when I'm walking, but in my speech and everything that I needed to communicate verbally. But back then, in my first pageant that I did as a teen, my idea of self-confidence was as long as I had that opportunity to go on stage, I could be confident, which was kind of warped in a way because even though you have the opportunity, you still have to have it in yourself to be able to bring that out. So I remember my first pageant right before Q&A because at the time I was still overcoming being really shy and not wanting to share my voice because of struggles with a speech impediment in my childhood and, being worried about the way I would pronounce words on stage if I get nervous and defaulting to something. But right before the Q&A portion, I remember I had severe anxiety. My mom had to calm me down and she told me, like, you got this, you can do this, just be strong. Remember everything that's in your heart, not just, pulling from what you memorize with the training and all that, but just speak from the heart. And I ended up winning the Q&A portion. I never imagined that for myself at the time. So my confidence, I realized, had to come from within.
Would you say that self-confidence is more an inside-out journey for you, or do you do some exercises? Like some people, they really do some anxiety exercises to just calm them down before, say, giving a speech or some event. Do you do something like that? Or would you say it's been a journey for you more inside-out?
I think it's been more inside out because at one point in my life, I felt like I needed to be prepared for everything. It's like even going into a conversation with people in my community, I needed to remember some talking points. Otherwise, I'd be too shy and freeze up and not know what to say. But now that I have the confidence to just say whatever and kind of speak in a more unfiltered way where I'm just trying to be me and trying to connect with people as I feel, it's different that way. And one way that I'm able to bring that out is also to just stay grounded and taking a minute for myself whenever I feel nervous. So when it comes to speaking on stage, knowing that it's okay to pause a little bit, sometimes sounds like it's for dramatic effect, but it's to gather your thoughts as well.
True. I mean, that pause is, even when you go to a communication class, they tell you to take pauses within your speeches, right? It helps you out in just calming down when you're nervous. Plus, you can recollect your thoughts easily and not miss the next slide which you are speaking, right? You talk a lot about your mom.
Yes.
And during these journeys, whether it was your previous competition which you had for supranational, I believe.
Yes.
And then whether it was for Miss World, do you think it has taken a toll on your family as well throughout this journey along with you?
I think in a way, of course, like everything requires sacrifice, whether it's time, money, and my parents definitely have put a lot of their time and effort into making my dreams happen because they do care and love me so deeply. And I'm very grateful knowing that and really feeling how much they love me with the actions of, them showing up for every pageant, them making sure that they'll accompany me anywhere, any corner of the GTA that I need to drive to for training or events. I think, yeah, it definitely takes a toll in that way, but it is rewarding. I know my mom, she's always voiced when we went back to the Philippines, her hometown. That's one of her proudest moments is going home, but not just to see the family, but also we had a parade celebrating
Okay.
winning at the time my Teen Canada title. So
Okay.
being able to share that, she said she knows, it was a hard journey to get to that crown, but the aftermath, the pride she felt, she was so happy.
I'm sure. I'm sure it's a proud moment for your parents. And who is more happier, or there's no comparison? Was it your mom or your dad?
It's hard to say. Maybe my dad, because
Yeah.
my
Okay.
mom was the one who was seeing more of the little details that go into everything, like every bead that needed to be sewn onto a dress to make it extra sparkly. And my dad was there as support, but he wasn't into as much of these like feminine things that needed to be done. So he just saw the aftermath and was really proud of the victory. But my mom also, like you said, held on to the different aspects that went into it. And for example, I would call her when I have an issue in a pageant. That's always my first person I call my 911. So at Super National, when I was competing, there was an issue with my national costume, and there was a piece that fell out of my headpiece.
Okay.
So it needed to be glued back on, and I'm in Poland, away from stores. We're at a resort in the mountains, so the only thing I had was Wi-Fi and my phone. I called my mom, and she was in Italy at the time, making their way to Poland. And immediately when I told her, I need glue, I need something to fix this, she was in Rome, and she spent her time, instead of, going into the Colosseum, she spent her time with my aunt going to every store trying to find glue for my costume. So I think she experiences that side of the stress, and it's like a relief when it's done for her.
I know moms are like that. Like they always have the solutions to all your problems.
Yes.
Now that I am a mom, I don't know how well I'm doing, but this is something I've realized over the time. It's a skill. You've always been very proud of being a Scottish Filipino girl. You proudly say it out in your bios
Yeah.
as well. How do you really balance both the cultures, or is there one culture which is overpowering in the house? How have you grown up?
I do think growing up, I did lean more to the Filipina side because my mom is the stricter one in our household. She's also the connection. We have more family members on the Filipino side. So I've grown up around the food first and the parties, the language as well. So that's always been, I think, central to how I've perceived the world and my values that I carry. But on my own, as I've grown, I've also wanted to explore more of my Scottish side. So when I was studying abroad for exchange, I went to Scotland, visiting
Okay.
one of the places that my grandfather mentioned back then, and seeing each family has their clan pattern, their clan names in these gift stores. It was something interesting to me. So I bought a scarf that represented my last name, the Grant clan. And
Okay.
it's something that I'm exploring now, knowing
Okay.
that maybe I missed that little part or connection in my childhood.
So what is this clan? Can you tell us? Is it the last name?
Yes, every
Okay.
last name has their own grouping, and they have a pattern and a crest to represent their
Okay.
family.
Okay, and what would the pattern be for your clan name? That's Grant?
I guess it's hard to describe because a lot of
Okay.
them, they look very like plaid, but the Grant
Okay.
one that I bought, the scarf is a red background, and then you have some green lines overlapping.
And when it comes to food, which food do you prefer more? Is it the Filipino side or is it the Scottish one?
I don't know that I've had much Scottish food, but I guess by default I'd have to say Filipino because I've had so much of that. I do really love caldereta. That's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess Filipino food.
Okay. Because your mom is the
Yes, of course.
boss of the kitchen too.
Exactly. Yes, she likes to cook Filipino food, so that's where I get it.
So clearly, because of both the traditions, you would say inclusivity is a very important part. Growing up as well, right?
Yes.
Like after Miss World, do you think how are you going to voice your background on inclusivity? What do you have to say about it?
At Miss World, I think also they do ask a lot about your country and I guess everything that the values are connected to there. So Canada's very famed for multiculturalism.
Correct.
And that's something I do want to showcase, being someone of multiple cultures as well. How at the end of the day, we're all Canadian. We come here from many backgrounds and we share our culture with each other. And we have different foods, languages, but we're all Canada. So that's something I would definitely love to showcase. And aside from the cultural part of it as well, something I'd like to showcase at Miss World is my own project as well, showing my beauty with a purpose, because that's more direct to myself with inclusivity in terms of including children with disabilities.
And let's go back to your pageantry days
Yes,
a bit.
yeah.
How do you think it started off? Like, did you always dream about walking in the pageants, or how did that strike you?
As a child, yes. I have pictures of me wearing like this Dollarama necklace and crown because I dreamed of more so being a princess and having that kind of sparkle and stage presence. And I had this diary entry that I discovered. I probably wrote it when I was like 14, and I was watching Miss World back then, and I wrote something along the lines of, I wish that could be me one day. I could see myself doing that in another world, another universe. But for now, I guess I'm going to have to focus on being a doctor. That's what I said. I'm not a doctor, but I guess I went the other way to that other world or other universe.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how was this pageantry and everything really introduced? Did you go attend some event, or was it somebody in the family who spoke about it and that influenced you more?
I think it's a really heavy part of the Filipino culture to love
Okay.
pageantry, and growing up around my relatives, every time there's a major pageant on, they would turn on the TV like that's one of the pay-per-view big events. So seeing that as a kid, knowing, okay, every year that's one of the events to look forward to, I knew in my mind how big my community perceived this kind of achievement to be. So when the opportunity finally came and I thought, why don't I just go for a title and represent my country, then I knew I had the community support because everyone around me, my family, they knew that this was a really big dream with big opportunities.
And then after you explored your diary and you found out what you had written, then after that, how did it go?
I only found the diary recently, and I never thought for a long time back then of how differently I perceived my life, and how I guess I didn't think I had the confidence to walk on stage and do those kinds of things. But as my life's changed with pageantry, I've definitely grown more confident in who I am, being able to express that and being able to communicate as well, because there is a lot of communication that goes into pageantry, whether it be on stage in your Q&A, your closed door interviews, and that's something I end up carrying into my work as well, being a consultant, having to talk to people and communicate.
So you did some trainings, or I'm just figuring out. So after the diary, you realized that, okay, this pageantry is something I would really like to do. So you went and told your parents about it?
It took a few years to get to the point where I realized maybe this is something I could do. My first thought was, I don't think that I could win immediately. I just want to try it out. So as a teen, I found one pageant, and it was representing my culture at the time. It was Miss Teen Philippines Canada. So I thought,
Okay.
that's perfect because I'm a Filipina in Canada. So I told my parents about it, and at first they were like, no, we're not doing this. And my mom's reasoning was maybe a bit different from my dad's. Her thinking was, because she said, if you're going to do this and you're competing, then I'm competing too. I'm I'm going to have to compete just as hard as you. And I didn't really understand it at the time, especially being a teen. I guess you don't really think about everything that goes into it, all the dresses, the trainings, like who has to drive you to get these things. It's your parents. So my mom said if we go in, it's at the time it's all or nothing. That's what she said. So she made me make this big decision. Are you going to go into that, or are we going to, I don't know, focus on getting a car or something different? Can we divert your attention? Because I don't think they wanted me to do it at the time, but now it's something that none of us will regret.
So it was basically her thought process probably was more of she wasn't, because you don't know what the future holds, and she didn't really want you to waste a lot of time if there is nothing in the future about it. Was it that thought process which she had?
I think it was more of protecting me, knowing that feelings are involved, especially as a younger girl. If you go in with these high hopes and dreams, and especially if your mind at the time is just on a possibility of a crown and you don't get it, you'd be crushed. So that was her thinking, that you might not get it just because, you know, you're new to this and you never know what could happen. And I don't want you to feel hurt, but I also don't want you to have to put in this much effort and feel hurt, because that would feel even worse.
And then what changed her mind?
It was a charity component, because we started discussing, okay, but why do you want the title? What could we do with this? Like, what's the end goal? And when we thought about charity being part of that end goal, that's when she said, okay, this is more meaningful than just a beauty pageant. This is something that can go further.
Okay, and was your dad always in line with your mom, or did you have to convince him separately?
I think my dad was a bit easier to convince than my mom, because he looks at the positive a lot. So if I tell him, you know, as this girl with dreams, I want to do this and I can go on stage and I'll be confident, I'll share my piano during the talent portion, then he just sees the dreamy side of it as well. And he's like, yeah, that sounds really good. Let's do that.
So then after that, your mom got convinced, and then you had to file the application. And then how did you go? Did you just wait, or you went for some trainings? How was your life different or not different after that?
Well, I signed up first, and me and my mom look back at this and think that it's a little bit crazy how naive and I guess unprepared we were going in. But we just signed up and we showed up ready to compete. And then we met some people and we realized, oh, wait, you need to learn how to walk a certain way. Your posture has to be a certain way. So eventually we met this trainer after we already signed up. So this is in the process of we're competing in a few months. And that's where I started learning how to walk. So every week I would practice in a studio with heels for my first time, and Q&A as well, because you can't just answer yes, no. You know, it can't be this simple wordings that I was used to at the time, but you have to dig deeper to really show the judges what you're thinking during Q&A. So that's the kind of stuff I practiced back then.
And you were a shy girl initially,
Yes.
right? How did that coaching really help you come out of your shell? Or was it again your mom who's been helping you boost up all your confidence? Or was it on the journey you started learning everything?
It was a mix of everything. So as I'm growing older, I started gaining more confidence. I had friends around me, a support circle of my family. So I started realizing what gave me confidence. My mom, of course, continuously supporting me, and being in the pageant itself, realizing how hard I trained. And when you're training, you put yourself in the mindset of, I'm going to imagine myself on that stage doing this. And maybe that's why at first everything seemed so much more intimidating to do your first rehearsal in your heels. But I started envisioning myself on that stage every time. So when the moment finally came, it was easy.
And now that you have won Miss World, what do you think? Do you think you would have done something differently than what you had already done in all those years of prep?
It's hard to say because I think about these sci-fi shows where, you go back in time and you change one thing and there's ripple effects of consequences. And I don't know that I would have changed anything because everything contributed to me learning and growing and becoming the person I am today. I think if I changed something and told myself a secret to make myself even a little bit more confident, maybe that would have affected a lesson that I've learned on how to, I guess, experience failure first or how to overcome these obstacles. I don't want to make it too easy for my life, I guess.
Okay. So if there's a young girl who's like watching this episode, what do you think? Where should she start? Should she start writing it in her diary or somewhere else?
I think a diary is good.
Okay.
First, writing your thoughts down and understanding yourself privately, and then going from inside out, being able to showcase who you are once you know a little bit more. Discovering yourself is really important.
Okay. And you've talked about, you play 6 different instruments,
Yes.
am I right? How did that come along?
Well, it all started with piano.
Okay.
My parents really encouraged me when I was younger to be part of so many extracurriculars. So I've tried it all, like gymnastics, swimming, karate, everything. But it was piano that stuck. I really loved music. And when I was younger, there was a time where I was sick, and at the time being at home for months and months on end with nothing to do, being isolated from my friends, all I had was the piano. So I just played it to make myself feel better, to be a sort of release. And that's something that developed into a habit over the years. So I would play it on my own just as a sense of healing and self-expression. So piano then allowed me to learn violin and viola because, not to get too technical into the music of it all, but the piano, you have your right hand and your left hand, and the violin follows the same notations and, I guess, musical language as the right hand, viola the left hand. So I'm able to learn the language of music from this one instrument and just continue building off of that. And yes, then guitar came because I was part of a youth group and they needed a music person, and guitar was the easiest thing to lug around. It's not easy to bring a keyboard everywhere. So I learned guitar, ukulele, because it's smaller, tiny version of a guitar, I guess. And yeah, after that, just kept going. Whatever made me happy, whatever I felt inspired to learn.
And which was the toughest one?
Violin. I think people don't often think that because it's a smaller instrument, but it takes a lot of effort to hold it up the way that you have to. And it's like an exercise. It's like burning all this muscle because you have to hold it up for long periods of time, and you have to have a precision where you put your fingers on the strings.
Amazing. And because you have used music as a part of your Beauty with a Purpose project, and you won the Beauty with a Purpose project as part of your Miss World Canada competition as well, right? So can you tell us a bit more about it, and why do you think that was so important for you?
Well, as I said, music for me was self-expression, and I realized also it's not just me who could benefit from having music as self-expression, but there are many kids across the world who have special needs, and it's more difficult to express yourself if, for example, you're nonverbal or you have a different way of communicating. But music is one language that everyone could speak. So that's one way that I thought, there's so many people who could benefit from music, but maybe not everyone has the same access to it, especially with having special needs. You have special modifications that would require you to be able to learn these instruments. So it's not something easily accessible to families. It's expensive. It's often produced in the US, and living in Canada, living abroad, it's more expensive to import these instruments and get them into classrooms, get them into your homes. So it's something that I wanted to bridge a gap on, being able to bring it to these children so that they could play instruments and they could express themselves however they felt.
So these children, do you work with a specific organization, kids of a specific organization, or how do you find these kids, or they reach out to your organization? How do you work it out?
Yeah, the first instruments that I gave, it's children that I knew in the community. So it was more of a trial run. I figured out this is what I wanted to do. I did a lot of research on what certain children, based on their special needs, might require in an instrument. And some children that I knew in the community had autism, and autism visually is a big part of how they learn, and texture is important. So I found these silicone adapted pianos that were color coded. So I tried that out first. So I brought them to these children. I had them play it, had them learn, and it was easier for them to pick up the piano than to just have a sticker or some sort of guidance in that way. So after I saw the success of that, I expanded, okay, what about drums? So color-coded drums. And that's the next instrument that I championed. And yeah, so overall, it's been very community-based. And people have then reached out to me once they saw when I was promoting on my platform, and I think that's where pageantry comes into it, because it brings attention to the causes you're passionate about, what you're doing in your community. So people outside of the community who you don't know will see that and reach out.
And why did you really choose this as your beauty with a purpose, not something else?
Well, my mother is a special education teacher, so that was something that I always knew was very important, special education, catering to the needs of those with special needs, because often they don't have the same voice to be able to express themselves that a lot of children do. So that's why I've always felt very keen on helping children with special needs, and I became a volunteer at Hull and Blue Review Kids Rehab Hospital, working in the music therapy program for kids with special needs as well. So it just felt like it was a full circle decision to help that group.
So is it always kids with autism, or there are other disabilities which your program helps with?
Yes, there's so many disabilities. I've also helped children with Down syndrome as well. And I'm trying to expand, find more kids in the community. In my Hull and Blue Review, I work with children with many different disabilities, with muscle dystrophy, and there's different ways that music can be approached, whether it be through not just typical instruments, but there's children who use a device, so they hum or they can blow into a device and it selects options for them. They're able to figure out how to use a drum or when to press on the drum beat. So that's something I'd also like to explore deeper. So I'm hoping to get more into the technology space of it all and figure out how to bring those more specialized instruments I've seen in the hospital to kids in the community.
And all these instruments are customized for each kid, or how does it happen?
Not exactly customized, but it's more that when I get approached to support a child with an instrument, I ask about, how do they learn? What are their specific needs, or any things that might make it easier for them to grasp the instruments? And then from there, I do my research, I figure it out. And maybe that's more of where you get the science vibe for me, doing all this research and sitting down. But I do spend my time to find what works best for them.
And then many of the time, especially with kids, like you buy them some new gadgets or new toys or musical instruments even. After some time, they really lose interest because nobody's really teaching them that these are the steps you need to do. And after some time, their attention span is very, very small. So how do you really make sure that the kid is actually using the instruments you are providing them with, or do you do sessions along with them as well?
I do follow up with a few of the kids. I've visited them and just checked in on their instruments if they want. And I have these books that I'm working on creating as well. So it guides them on where to press the notes and how to play their favorite song. So I do follow up and check in. What songs do you want to learn next? So it's a way to encourage them to keep going, that you don't have to stay within these sets of songs that you started with, but anything that you find that you want to play, it's possible. You just have to figure out what you want to do next.
And then say you provided, like you said, piano, a color-coded piano to some kid. And the kid, say after a couple of months, loses interest out of piano and wants to do drums or a guitar. Then do you also provide all instruments come in the form of adaptive instruments?
Most instruments do have this adapted, modified component that you could find. I haven't had someone yet come in and get a new instrument, but I would gladly be able to support that, because as someone who plays multiple, I know that, of course, you want to try something new. You don't want to just stick with one thing. So, yeah, I would support that.
And your Beauty with a Purpose, is it more of using music as a healing therapy, which you have personally used music as a therapy, or is it more on providing the adaptive instruments? What would you categorize it as?
I would say that the adaptive instruments are more of a tool to get to the healing and self-expression. And the whole project itself is more focused on the result of the instruments, so the healing and self-expression. And that's also why, as part of the project, I have organized in the past a concert so that they can showcase their skills on stage. It's not just limited to being able to play an instrument, but if they want to sing, if they want to use music in any sort of way, that is something that I want to champion as well.
That's absolutely wonderful. I mean, concerts are a way for them to express themselves even on stage and build up that confidence as well, right?
Yeah, and I think that's very important, because it's opportunities as well. Once you have the opportunity to go on stage, like I've said in the past, as part of my journey, that's how I started to build my confidence through pageantry. And I want to give these children who maybe wouldn't have the same kind of opportunity to go on stage, to perform, that place where they can in these concerts. So I've hosted one last year, and I'm planning to host another one this upcoming year.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, and when you talk about music as a therapy, I know there are people who would really come and question you, because in the sense that how is this therapy different from not having a normal verbal therapy or a physical therapy with with a counselor or a therapist? How do you think musical therapy, is it just an add-on to the already existing programs available with the hospitals or with the specialists, or is it something unique you are providing?
I think it's definitely something unique. Of course, having these speech therapies, having other physical therapies are very important for your development. But at the end of the day, you need something fun to come home to, something fun to do, because otherwise it's like going to school. You just have math and science and these courses where maybe it's important, but you need an outlet. You need something where you can really pour your emotions into and just have fun with it.
More or less using creativity as a part of your outlet.
Yes.
And helping you revive at that point
Yes,
of time, right? Have you ever found any kids who were not at all interested in music, and then you introduced them with your program, and they were now they are your fan? Has it ever happened?
I've had a child who wasn't that interested in music. Maybe they liked to listen to it, but playing it wasn't something they were so into. Until then, they discovered having drums, and then suddenly it's like, oh, this is cool. It's not just maybe as complex as learning a piano or a guitar, but I can hit this color, because it was a color-coded drum. I can hit this color and produce a sound, and I can put all my energy into doing this, because sometimes it's not just emotion, but you have pent up energy and you want to just release that.
Okay. Lots about your Beauty with a Purpose. I'll go back again from your journey.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that you were struggling a bit with HSP, and how do you think it changed your life? And tell us something about what was that? What HSP is all about?
Yeah, so the HSP that I had at the time, they weren't able to diagnose it. They thought that it was maybe bed bugs because I was having these blisters all over my feet, over my legs, and it was becoming difficult to walk. And eventually I had to go through specialists and different hospitals for them to finally diagnose that it was HSP. And that ends up being a very common thing for kids, more common than people realize. But the case that I had was very severe because it was blocking my ability to walk as well. So because I couldn't walk, I had to stay home and I couldn't go to school. And I knew that even though I was a kid from a young age, I'm not in school, sounds fun, but I'm in pain and I'm isolated from my friends. My friends are learning and I'm here. I don't know like what else to do except play piano. That's the only thing that was there for me. I guess also back then we didn't really have our own phones like kids do now or
How
iPads.
old were you then?
I was 7.
Oh,
Yeah, so we didn't really have the same kind of resources that a lot of kids do now. So I was just sitting there in the silence and thought, okay, well, I want to hear something. I want to feel the music. And that's when I knew, okay, I'm learning piano, and I didn't by any means go in and play some Mozart or anything, but I just thought I really like, I think maybe One Direction or Justin Bieber was popular at the time. Let me try to play that melody on the piano. And then it would take me all day to figure it out. And suddenly the next day I'm really good at it. So it's something that I just continued and used to make me happy.
so you had to stop school. You were homeschooled during that time, and how long did it last?
I think I was out of school for a good few months, maybe like half the year.
Oh
I
my
don't,
goodness.
I wouldn't say I was necessarily homeschooled because it was more of a leave from school.
Okay.
And my parents, they were working too. So, I mean, sometimes my dad would be there, sometimes my aunt. So it's more like they're babysitting me in a way. Or they would have to take me to checkups, and because I couldn't walk, they would put me in a wagon to bring me to the bus. Because
Okay.
at the time, like, we didn't have, or my aunt, she couldn't drive, she didn't have a car. So in a wagon, going to the bus, and then we get to the hospital, I get transferred to the wheelchair. So I was more just, I guess, exploring on my own, sitting there. And that's why I guess music was more important, because it's not like I had anything else to do, really.
And you, after you joined back, you felt a lot left out after that as well, or did did it take some time for life to revive back for you?
A little bit, because going back, I think also there was like a stack of homework where they were like, well, you were away and this is the work that you missed. So then I think there was nothing else to do except copy a lot of the notes. So I did develop really good handwriting from that, because there was a lot of note taking from a young age when you're learning how to write. And my mom would come over and she'd see me writing my notes as I'm coming back. And she was still under the impression, this is still a learning opportunity, so you have to put your best into it, regardless of this is part of your recovery or anything. So she really focused on make sure it's neat, look at this example, this girl wrote neat, you have to match that or be better. So I did spend a lot of time copying the notes and making it look nice.
And then later on, as you grew up, you went into modeling, where walking was one of the biggest skills, right?
Actually, yes, yeah.
Did that ever, the days you were sick, did that ever come to haunt you back? Or did it have any impact, especially emotionally?
I don't think immediately, because for a long time, and maybe this is what it's like for a lot of kids who experience trauma as well, you forget, I guess, as you move on with your life. It's something that is like really in this deep pocket of your mind. And it's only recently, as I was thinking of this project and this work that I wanted to do, I thought more of the children with special needs and my mom's connection to children with special needs, the hospital I was volunteering at, for me to realize that I've also had that time where I've had to be in a wheelchair, and that helped me relate to the children at the time who I was seeing in wheelchairs, and as I was trying to navigate how to help them, and with also like autonomy and knowing when they want to be pushed in the wheelchair or how they want to be handled. So it's something that came to my mind later in life.
And then would you say health and fitness is a very important part of your journey, or is that so?
I think I have been focusing more on the community aspect, but definitely health and fitness is important. Miss World does have a sports challenge. So that's something I am thinking future word, because obviously health and fitness, if you're healthy, the more you can do. Your body also is really important. With a healthy body, you have a healthy mind. Everything's interconnected. So there's no way you could neglect one thing.
And there are, when it comes to especially modeling industry, there are a lot of true or fake news about models starving themselves day and night because they want to be so-called fit, which is not fitness in the real sense. What do you have to say about that? Have you ever faced such vulnerabilities, like you had to go on a fasting and then go for a walk or a model walk the next day? Has that ever happened?
When I was younger, in that pageant space, yes, there were a lot of comments about you had to look a certain way, and this is okay, what we want you to eat for the week in order to like fit into this specific dress. And for example, at the time, the dress wasn't selected by me to fit me. It was selected for me, and they're like, you fit into this dress.
Cool.
So as I grew up and I took a break from pageantry after my teen pageant, and I came back when I was 21. So I was 16, took like a while to come back. And then I realized, well, that's the opposite. That's backwards. It's not, here's a dress, you fit into the dress. It's, here's you, and the dress will come for you. You be yourself first and, prioritize being healthy, because being on stage and promoting things, you also want to be a good role model. You want to promote being healthy and just showcasing the best parts as well. So yeah, my priority was more on that. I don't think now that's something I really heavily focus on, and more of like being fit in order to appear a certain way, but more being fit because, I want to do well in sports. I want to be strong. I want to do better in that sense.
And how did you really flip the script there? Has the industry itself changed, or you have always voiced out your opinion in those grounds?
I think the industry has definitely changed, of course. Like, there's been a larger shift to body positivity, which is amazing because, of course, why would we not treat our bodies as the temples and the amazing things that they are? But also for myself, I think I've been very vocal with the people who were around me at the time and telling them I don't like this idea of, this is a dress, you fit into it, but I want to select a dress that fits me as I am today. So I am very vocal and opinionated when it comes to those things in my own pageant journey and with coaches and my mom.
Which is very important because especially with girls who are really starting off their careers, especially in industries like modeling, many people are not so vocal about themselves and they feel really scared they might miss the part or they may not get the job. And it's great to see that a shy girl is being vocal about things which are of so much priority to her. Right?
It comes with a lot of confidence as well, like being sure of who you are. And unfortunately, that's something it took time for me to find. It comes with maturity and realizing also how big the world is and how much more there is to worrying about these things. Like, these things are not nearly as big or as important as everything else that's out there.
Let's talk a bit about the emotional aspect of this whole industry. Has it ever happened can you give us an example? Maybe you were feeling low or there was something not going as per what you expected, but you still have to put on makeup and smile and be on the stage.
I think in my last pageant, that was more prevalent than how it is for my pageant this time around. But in the last pageant I did a few years ago, I think I was focused on the wrong thing, and that's where those kinds of doubts and harsh feelings came in, because I was very focused on, placing a certain placement and maybe winning the crown, and that was my goal rather than enjoying the experience. And I remember when I didn't place, then it came more as a shock because, I put so much into this, but I was focused on the wrong thing. So when that thing didn't go my way, I didn't know what else I had because I wasn't aware. I wasn't looking at, how great of an experience it is to be in another country, to be competing and to have all these friends from across the world, the other girls. So at the time, I remember bawling my eyes out backstage after I didn't place, and I was just not in the right mindset at the time. And that's, I guess, the danger when you put yourself in these situations. You need to be thinking about things from a different perspective. It's not about the crown. It's not about that one singular goal. It's about the opportunities. So from there, it's definitely a learning experience that I had. And now things didn't go my way, I guess. In my recent pageant, like my dress popped open right before I was about to walk on stage, or the dress that I had planned for my preliminaries didn't arrive in time. And instead of being really stressed out and feeling the pressure on that, I felt like maybe I went into things more nonchalant, thinking, you know what, this isn't the end of the world. As I've said, like the world is so big and there's so many bigger things than this one moment. Like I'm not going to let this one moment define my whole journey. So just do it, just deal with it. So with like the prelim dress, I'm not going to cry about it that my dress didn't arrive in time. I'll just, use another dress. Maybe it's not the one I planned, but it's okay. It matters my performance on stage, not this one dress. Like it's not the defining piece.
And you talked a bit about body positivity earlier, right? But when it comes to pageants, that's what they are judging you on. Your beauty does have a factor there. Don't you think it is contradictory?
Well, I don't perceive it that way because I perceive it as beauty from within, because what you showcase with, the work that you do outside of pageantry, your advocacy or your confidence, all of that radiates when you come on stage, and that's what really makes you look beautiful. The most beautiful person is someone who has a beautiful heart. So that's how I see it. And if a pageant doesn't value those sorts of things, that's not the pageant for me.
Say you get rejected in one pageant, like you have not won all pageants, like you said you had a journey till Miss World, right? Do you think it ever affected your self-confidence, which you had built with so much difficulty?
I think not necessarily confidence, but it's more a sense of failure. Like if you don't achieve a certain goal, you don't achieve a certain placement, how do you move forward from there? And maybe it actually increased my confidence knowing that I'm able to overcome failure and learn from it rather than just living in it and letting myself be sad because I didn't get what I wanted.
But you do feel sad when you don't get something. Maybe
in the moment, but I think also like the way things have happened for me, I'm glad the way things have turned out, because maybe if I got what I wanted back then, I wouldn't have what I have now.
No wonder you didn't want to change anything on your journey way back. And beyond all this glamour and everything, you also have a day job. You said you are a consultant, right? How do you really switch your roles from on stage to off stage, back from front end to back end?
I think that's funny because with the stage part of it, makeup and hair plays a big factor as well. You get ready a bit differently than you do for work. So having that different hair and makeup for me almost feels like having a different persona. It's like when I go to work, I'm Alexa Grant, consultant, and I'm going to be very professional and communicate in technical terms. But then when I go on stage and I'm in a gown and I feel very feminine and confident in a different way, I'm Alexa Marie Grant, Miss World Canada, and I'm here to talk about not these technology financial solutions, but I'm here to talk about beauty with a purpose and more light and more personal things.
And after winning the pageant, what was your team's reaction? Like, did they perceive you something differently?
Maybe. I don't really know how they used to perceive me. Maybe because when I went into it, everyone kind of knew the fun fact about me was I did pageants. And then they were like, oh, here's another one. But after Miss World, they posted it in our team's chat and everyone was congratulating me and saying, you know, depending on where the pageant is, because we have some resources abroad, maybe they'd come and watch. So, yeah, we'll see.
That's amazing. It's really great to have such a supportive team and to get acknowledged for, because this is your passion, this is what you love to do, and as well as you have a day job. So if people acknowledge around you, it really adds so much more value.
Yeah, and also it's something that makes you stand out. I think having like this kind of fun hobby is such an asset, because you go into job interviews or you do these little talks where people want to know something different about you, not just, you know, what's your role at the company, but who are you outside of this? Do you have like something different that you can bring to the table, a different perspective? So that's why I do like the aspect of pageantry, and it's a bit of a shock when I bring it up to people, but it's something fun and unique about my life.
There's one last question I have to ask you. It's about, you've been talking about your mom a lot today.
Yes.
So would you say she's your biggest mentor in life?
I think so. Like from the beginning, of course, she's been with me from the beginning, but she's taught me the most about perspective and how to really go after your dreams. She's always drilled into me that it's important to have ambition, to always have a goal. And for me, I guess right now it is, you know, my beauty with a purpose, Miss World, and then what comes after that. I think that's always been the key difference. She's always taught me to look beyond the current goal, but also to the future. So I know that when I go into something like Miss World, the end goal isn't to win the crown. It's to do all these charity works, and then what comes after that? Okay, to grow it or to seek all these other opportunities, things that make me happy in life.
I'm sure she has all your best interests in her mind. She's
Yes.
a mom after all. Tell me, we now know that, okay, Alexa is a very good girl and she listens to whatever her mom says. But tell me an instance where your mom suggested you something and you did not listen to her, and it really worked out for you.
Oh, I think there's many instances where she says something and maybe we collide and I'm like, I don't agree. And we have to have a conversation and figure out, you know, how do we come to a compromise? I'm trying to think of a recent instance. Sometimes it's even something as simple as like where to eat. But it's probably because we both have strong personalities. My mom is very headstrong, and with the way she raised me, I'm very headstrong as well. So when those two collide, it's hard to come to an agreement. Sometimes when it comes to like what dress to wear for an event, we'll talk about, she'll say, well, this color looks better on you. And then I'll talk about, well, the background of the event will be this color. And we're like, well, how do we make it work? So we do have a lot of conversations. I wouldn't say that everything's just easy, but that's also how I like it. I like being able to have someone who is very honest with me, who tells me things as they are and tells me, you know, when I need to improve, when I need to be better. And yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alexa. We are done with the questions.
Okay.
But there is a small twist right now.
Okay.
So this is a card stack. So there's a question in one of the cards. So you get to pick a card and you will have to answer the question on the card.
All right. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
Do I read
Yeah,
it?
you can see.
Who were you 3 years ago versus today? What changed the most? That's funny because on Facebook I get those reminders. 3 years ago today, this is your memory. 3 years ago today, I think I didn't perceive the world to be as wide and as opportunity full as it is. 3 years ago, I was still a student. I was holding a different title and had a different focus in life. I think what's changed the most is that focus. Knowing that I want to focus on helping others, my charity work. It's not about just my own journey to reach a crown, or now that I've graduated, it's not just about, school, but it's also about what I'm doing in the community. Like, that's weighing more for me than it used to back then.
And has it changed anything else other than that, other than your goals? Anything in your personal life?
I think overall my goals have remained the same.
Same.
But it's more how am I going to get there? With what resources? Who am I going to show? I think back then I also wanted to be like a very perfect version of myself. I wanted to always look like this serious person like we talked about at the beginning, to appear that way. But now I'm realizing, well, that's not exactly who I am. So I want to show that I'm more than that. But I have a fun personality that I want to share. I have interests and passions and dreams.
Yeah. And like you said, you want to showcase yourself. You are
Yes.
a fun girl. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.